I'm going to do this video, and I think it's somewhat of an important video. And it's about someone that I haven't talked about for a while. Um, my ex-boyfriend, Colby, or Soda. His mom keeps a blog, and I'm going to talk about this at the risk of her finding these videos because she is very active on the internet, and it's a very big possibility that she may find them. But anyhow, she keeps a blog, and I, I used to read it every day, uh, and here recently I haven't, just because it's just a little bit um, too much. I mean, don't get me wrong. I have grieved vehemently over the death of Colby, but I refuse to allow his death to keep me from living my life. Um, his actions in life kept me from living my life. In death, he is not going to keep me from doing anything. Uh, that certainly doesn't mean that I don't hurt, because I do. I think it's safe to say I was probably the most devastated, because I know and I knew that I unequivocally did everything for him that I could. Everything. I was a big part of his problem, but I was just as big a part of the solution. So anyways, basically what I want to talk about is his mom's blog, and something that I feel needs to be addressed, and it is her lack of addressing his drug addiction. I didn't try not one drug until I met Colby Keegan. And I'm not blaming him for me getting on drugs, because I probably would have gotten into them had I met him or not. But from the day I met him, that's what he enjoyed to do. That was his passion, getting fucked up. That's what he loved to do. Um, and that was something that he really identified with. He was a drug addict. He never not wanted to be a drug addict. There wasn't, um, those that know him probably would say it's safe to say that he never wanted to go without being a drug addict or using drugs. Um, and this is something that's greatly missing from his mom's blog. And it's because I think that maybe it could be a psychological thing, that because, she's his parent, she doesn't want to face this fact because it's a harrowing fact, it's a difficult fact to try and take in. Or maybe because it's something that she tried to ignore from the get-go when it was so very obvious. Um, and there's a lot of guilt there because of that. Um, but I think that in order for Colby's story to impact anyone, it's not his beliefs, it's not what he stands for or stood for that is going to impact people. It is the fact that he stood for what he stood for while being someone who struggled with drug addiction. I think this is a key point of his life that it's just not fair to leave out. He was a drug addict. He chose to be a drug addict. He chose to be homeless. He chose to run from the law. Um, yes, he was bright, funny, talented, kind, loyal, musical, artistic, positive, a good friend, kind to animals, etc., etc. Yeah, he was. But he was also someone who was riddled by drug addiction, someone who was very selfish, someone who was not able to take responsibility for their actions and deal with the consequences accordingly. Um, there goes Charlie. I guess Mom's coming down here. But let's see. Sorry, I got off track here. I'm getting a cold. It sucks. But, yeah. I really just, I think that the reality of the situation for his mom is just too hard, or maybe she has too much guilt. Maybe his drug addiction was something she ignored for a very long time, because from my understanding it wasn't until very recently she tried to get him help. Colby's been a drug addict for the whole time I knew him, so he had to be a drug addict before that too, you know. Um, and I'm definitely not putting it all on his mom, because everyone impacts everyone's life, and certainly there are people around. But then again, I don't think anyone. Let me take that back. I don't think anyone around any individual is responsible for their death or responsible for that person's actions. Colby chose his path, and his death was a direct result of the choices that he made. Another thing that I've seen on her website is about the healthcare system, that she believes her son would be here had the healthcare system not failed him. The healthcare system did not fail Colby. Colby failed the healthcare system. Um, Multiple times he had the opportunity to stay and get help. Multiple times I was going to pay for methadone treatment for him, and he refused. What about the Meharry Medical incident where he left after being there for 3 days? Colby didn't want to be clean. If Colby wanted to be clean, he would have went into Grandpa's house and not said he was going to do it in the winter, because I can guarantee you when the winter came, Colby wasn't going to go to Grandpa's house. As a matter of fact, he said that they were whack to both me and his friends. It's just, I think that the reality of the situation is being overlooked. And, um, and I know that his mom doesn't think the world of me. And this is probably why I've never really been one to sort of beat around the bush. When I see something fucked up, I'll point it out. Um, and all of these things that I'm saying doesn't take away from the time I spent with Colby or the admiration that I had for him. But, like I said, I grieved. I mourned. And that period is over. I don't feel guilty about the way that I treated Colby. I have no guilt. I have no regrets. Um, and I knew him better than anyone. And I think that it would serve him well if his story was being told properly. I mean, if the story's going to be told, it needs to be told right. There doesn't need to be things that are paid attention to more than others. Especially, his issue with drugs, which was probably the biggest thing in his life. But, we have to keep in mind that yes, he was a great person, but he also had a lot of faults, just like everyone else. He chose to be homeless. He chose to be a drug addict. He chose not to get help. Just because someone has passed away, we can't just act like all of a sudden they, were an angel. Even if we did really, really love them, people have to take responsibilities for their actions in life and in death. And I don't know. I'm running out of time here, but I think I'm gonna go to sleep. My nose is stuffy. I'm so angry about it. But yeah, that's basically all I wanted to say. And like I said, I've mourned and I've grieved, and I'm moving on with my life. I think everyone else should also.